You're watching NFL Daily. I am Tom Downey, and it's a mailbag here at Chat Sports. We answer all your questions that come in as part of our live NFL shows. First up from Evan Hinders. Should Pittsburgh sign Josh Jackson or Kevin King? Of the two, even though I like Jackson more coming out of Iowa, King has been the better corner in the NFL. Jackson, frankly, has been a pretty big disappointment. So I would lean towards King, although I don't feel that comfortable with either of those guys being my cornerback option beyond just a better backup than what I have all at this point. From Sean, the RC mechanic, I'll stop cheating. So a three-part question. Okay, well, there we go. Kind of a three-parter. Should the Falcons trade Deion Jones? Where should he be traded? And what should the Falcons ask in exchange? It's a great question on Deion Jones. I think there would be some interest in him. I don't think he's quite the same player he was at his absolute peak, but he's not bad either. You got to figure out the money. You know, the Browns would be a fun fit, but they don't value the linebacker spot all that highly. If Green Bay hadn't drafted a linebacker in round one, I might consider them. The Chargers have the cap space to make it work. Honestly, the team that makes a lot of sense if they want to commit to it. Dallas, you've got Dan Quinn, former Falcons head coach. Logical scheme fit there. Those teams make sense. The return, I think if you're getting anything more than a fourth, you should be pretty damned excited. Rumble question from Seahawks and Kraken fan. Why would the Seahawks sign OBJ when we have D. Eskridge? They are the same player type. The difference is that one of them is proven to be good in the NFL. Eskridge has potential, but he hasn't proven it yet. I think the biggest reason why they wouldn't sign him, and I agree that they're not going to end up signing him, but they had interest previously, is the team is in a very different spot right now. They are rebuilding. Does Odell Beckham want to go and be a part of a rebuilding organization? I don't think so. And if you're Seattle, you want to see what your young guys in Eskridge and Bo Melton, etc., can do on the field as opposed to getting the veteran there. Oh, he meant Marquise Goodwin. Why did they sign Marquise Goodwin? They want speed, and they don't trust Freddie Swain on that standpoint. And if Bo Melton makes your roster, Goodwin can still be your wide receiver 4 or 5. That's what's going on that standpoint there. From Otis Lynch, Kyler Murray to the Giants if his contract talks don't work. I mean, if you're the Giants and you are convinced that Kyler's your answer, wouldn't you move your first-round pick right now? Like, if Murray goes to New York, I think you feel way better about them potentially, emphasis on the potentially side of it here, being a playoff-caliber team. The red flag is that Murray has not proven himself to be a true franchise QB at this point. He's shown flashes. He's shown moments of being that guy and that dude over his NFL career, but he's never consistently done it. In fact, he flat out played bad down the stretch of last year's season. That should be a red flag. I'm also unconvinced the Cardinals trade Murray, because then who the hell is going to be their quarterback? That's a giant question mark for them if they don't retain Kyler Murray. So what do you think ends up happening with Kyler? Will Arizona trade him? Y for yes, they will. N for no, they will not. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad break comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there, type in Y for yes or N for no. John's in the all caps here. T.Y. Hilton or Julio Jones? Not going to get any more to the Colts. I prefer Julio because of the chemistry with Matt Ryan. Yeah, I think that does make a lot of sense to pursue that route for Indy. I would have more interest in Julio. T.Y. and Julio both are kind of at similar career points of like, are they still good? We're not that sure. There have been injury problems for both players. You would hope that they take a big-time step forward, but that is not guaranteed by any stretch of the imagination, so it is a bit of a red flag there. But of those two, yes, I would also go with Julio over T.Y. From Smokey McKenzie, if Davis Mills plays great and the Browns don't do well this season, we have 2 top 10 picks. Do we still get a quarterback to make them a backup and get defensive end? You mean also draft defensive end? No. If Davis Mills plays great, you roll with him. Unless you are convinced it's all a flash in the pan, in which case you trade him and you spend that top 10 pick on a new quarterback. If Davis Mills plays great, which he might, he played pretty well last year, there were moments and flashes, then you keep him and you see if he can truly be your franchise guy, because you don't want two potential guys on your roster in there. That's not a good use of your assets in your premium draft capital. From Jordan, by any chance, is there a possibility that OBJ could go to the Falcons? From a need perspective, yes. From a it fits where both teams are at, I don't think so. The Falcons are rebuilding, and I think OBJ wants to go to a better team in the end. Now, we've got some NFL rookie jerseys for you guys from our friends over at Fanatics. Get yours today at chatsports.com/NFL jersey. Taking you right to the site, you'll see a bunch of rookies and some new player additions as well, trades, etc. But the rookies are all on there with their numbers if they've been announced, by the way. So not yet for everybody, but for most players, they're on there. Check the comment section and the description. It's chatsports.com/NFL jersey. That link is in there, so you can click, go shop, and get your officially licensed NFL jerseys today. One Nation Underground, Bates for Deebo. It's a fun idea. I think the Niners lose that trade from a player value perspective. And for the Bengals, how are you going to juggle Deebo, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins? That's too much investment at one position. Now, it is the greatest receiving core in ever, but I don't think that's a trade that really solidifies what either team is going for there. If you can work in a third team that somehow acquires Deebo Samuel, maybe it starts to make some more sense. From Tyler Sample, should the Panthers bring in Donta Hightower? Sure. Carolina is trying to win football games right now. That organization is in dire straits of keeping their head coach's job alive still. Hightower is not what he was in his prime. I do think he's a better player than Damian Wilson is. So you have Shaq Thompson, right? You draft Brandon Smith. Donta Hightower would be the perfect mentor for Brandon Smith. So yeah, I would have no interest in that pickup whatsoever if I were the Carolina Panthers. Evan Hinders, Saints will go 7-10 and draft Spencer Rattler next year. Sam, you're the resident Spencer Rattler fan. Let's say they're drafting that's only around 11-12. Do you like that pick or no?
I like the potential based on what he could do with Shane Beamer, but we haven't seen anything to prove that yet.
He was bad last year. So the quarterback class beyond the top two guys, Young and Stroud, a lot of interesting names. They got to prove it first and foremost. That has not happened, at least not quite yet at this point. So if they do finish poorly, quarterback makes sense. Although, wait, they have no first-round pick next year. Forgot about that. So it might be a round 2 pick for Rattler. Forgot about that one. Interesting. From Richard Pratt, could the Broncos trade KJ Hamler since they're deep at wide receiver? They are pretty deep at the position. You know, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton. That's a pretty good 1, 2, 3. And they've also drafted some other, I'll call them mid-ish round guys from, Montreal, Washington, etc. Seth Williams, if you want to count him in there too. Hamler flashed and then was hurt as well, and that's been a problem. In his 2 years, he played in only 16 games with only 455 yards. That's not ideal for a player like Hamler, but there is still untapped potential. I think Denver wants to win football games right now, which might be a potential issue in terms of, we'll trade him away and get and sell low on him. I think they would rather keep him, but there are teams who are in need of receiver help. These receiving cores are not great. The Falcons, even after adding Bryan Edwards, the Ravens have like 6 guys who are on the roster last year, a bunch of UDFAs. The Bears have added all of the former mid-ish round picks who aren't that great. That receiving core is bad as far as I'm concerned. The Browns could go all in on adding one more player. The Packers, I hate that receiving room. And Tennessee, as they go too deep with a bunch of unknowns beyond that. A 2-part ask for you guys here right now. I want you to head down to the comments section, shout out your favorite team, and then name a player who you want to trade for. Do that right now for me in the comments section. While you're down there, if you haven't already subscribed, do it. We got daily NFL videos, weekly live shows, and so much more for you here at Chat Sports. It's a no-brainer. Subscribe for free right now. From Roy Williams, Cowboys trade for Chuck Clark to add more safety help. It's a safety question, Sam, for the Cowboys with no super chat. I think producer Brett's going to be mad at you, by the way, on that one. Sure, I'd love to. What's the cost? Is he super cheap? If so, hell yeah. Is he expensive? And not so much. I will make note, I actually feel better about the safety room for the Cowboys than I have in years at this stage. From John Kruger, thoughts on Foles to Indy. We actually mentioned it on Sunday's show that it was going to go down, so watch that if you want a more in-depth answer, John. But to be succinct with it, makes sense, right? They need a better backup QB. At this point, I have not seen the contract details. I would assume it's pretty cheap, and that also makes sense because Foles is not that guy anymore. He's a backup and nothing else, but it does make sense for Indy. From Raider fan for life, Odell to the Raiders. What's the chance of it happening? I'd say low. For a team that's going to utilize Darren Waller a lot as a pass catcher, and you have Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow, there aren't that many chances, and also I know Marcus Robinson, by the way. There aren't that many targets to go around. So possible, yes. Likely, I would say no, probably not from that standpoint. From Popular Nobody, who are some trade partners for Philly to trade away Reagor, and what do you think he's worth? At this point, he's fighting for a spot, the number 4 spot in the wide receiver core. It's a great question on Reagor. He's been bad in Philly. 28 career games for Reagor. Hasn't even met 700. If I had told you this production was his rookie, you would have said, okay, not great, but still hoping for a little bit better out of Reagor. I do think there are some logical destinations for Reagor. As a former first-round pick, there's always the possibility that a team says, yes, we'll try to add him and see if he can redeem himself. There are plenty of teams who could make sense. We mentioned some other receivers when it was asked about, what was the question? Was the KJ Hamler list? Makes a lot of sense for Reagor, too. I think there should be some interest there in him. But as for value, conditional mid to late day 3 pick. From Christopher West, will the Dolphins trade Myles Gaskin since they added 15 new backs? Exaggeration, but also not that much. They signed Chase Edmonds, Sonny Michel, Raheem Mostert, and they also signed Zaquandre Wright as UDFA. Gaskin suddenly is their their RB4 at this point. They don't need him if they don't want him at this point. Now, I think they could go 4 deep, but as a guy that can be an RB2 or an RB3, I do think there are some potential destinations, including the Cardinals, who lost Chase Edmonds and drafted Keontae Ingram. Houston has a lot of unprovenness at the running back position. The Saints have been exploring options. The Giants don't have much behind Saquon Barkley, besides Matt Breida, Dolphins legend. The Steelers have limited options behind Najee Harris, and Tennessee could also use a player if they don't trust Hassan Haskins yet. I want you guys to shout out your city for me in the comments section. We're always curious where you guys are watching from, so let me know right now. A super chat from Jay Elam. Reagor to Dallas, better quarterback to play for. That is true, and he could also maybe be your punt returner. I do think Dallas makes some sense for Reagor. From Samuel Rowe, would the Cowboys sign Will Fuller? I think it makes sense. Gallup's going to miss time. Fuller's a speedy vertical threat, which you don't really have on your roster from the speed perspective. I think he'd be pretty cheap, and there is a roster spot open right now for the Cowboys, and that could be filled by Will Fuller, although the downside is they've signed 3 players all off-season long who were on other NFL rosters last year, so who knows at this point. Eps CX, Bryce Young or CJ Stroud? Yes. I mean, either, really. I think Stroud has the better size and measurables. I thought Young's film was really impressive last year. There are some he kind of throws off his back foot a little bit too much for me. There's a little bit of lackadaisicalness in his mechanics, but the results are still awesome. Both guys will be compared all year long about who's QB1 for this upcoming NFL draft. Caleb, who will have the better season, Jets or Giants? With the off-season moves they have had, both look like wild card contenders. Thoughts? I actually don't think either are wild card contenders, to be honest. The Giants are in I'd say year one of maybe a 2-year rebuild. I don't trust their quarterback. They play in the bad NFC, which gives them a chance. The Jets, I love the route they're heading in, but they have a brutal schedule in the AFC. If the divisions were flipped, I think the Jets could be a wild card team. Giants, going to take some more time.